Welcome back to another episode of Advancing with Amy, mental health warrior and neurospicy mama. I'm your host, Amy, and today we have an extraordinary guest, Fatima Bey, who will be sharing her remarkable insights on overcoming fear, recognizing self-worth, and shifting mindsets for success. As a personal coach, speaker, and mind shifter, Fatima draws from her own journey and extensive experience to help both teens and adults find balance and purpose in their lives. In this episode, Fatima opens up about her own struggles with self-worth and confidence, and how she transformed her life with the guidance of a higher power. She explains her unique approach to mind shifting, tailored to individual needs, and the importance of addressing mental health issues honestly and openly. Fatima also shares a powerful story about a young girl named Janaya, whose life was transformed through her coaching. Join us as we delve into conversations about the impact of fear, the importance of mental health, and the necessity of having real, sometimes uncomfortable, discussions to foster growth and resilience. Whether you're a teen, an adult, or someone looking to make a positive change in your life, Fatima's wisdom is sure to inspire and empower you. So let's get started. We're here with Fatima Bey today, who is a mind shifter. Fatima, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're glad to have you here. So tell me a little bit about what a mind shifter is.
Well, I shift people's thinking for their own success. So I came up with that name. My sister helped me come up with that name actually, because it is something I decided to put a title to something I've done my entire life. So I help people to shift the way they think, because our thinking is where all the answers lie and also where they die. It's how we think that determines where we go, where we don't go, what we do, what we don't do. Our thought patterns are everything. And so I came to an understanding that a long time ago that it really doesn't matter what tools you give. There's plenty of people out there that give you lots of advice and tools, and they're excellent. But a hammer does no good in the hand of a baby. It can only do damage because
Good
the baby
point.
doesn't know what to do with it. So I'm not saying that people are babies. What I'm saying, I'm just using that as an analogy, but what I'm saying is that we have to shift our thinking if we want success. So I like to start with your foundation. I'm a foundation person. So your foundation of how you think, that's my focus. The tips and tools, once you have shifted your thinking, I'll give you those too, but I'm not giving them to you until we shift your thinking, because I'm not wasting my time.
Right.
So, and everybody, most of us need mind shifts. We don't all need the same kind because we're not all on the same level at the same time, but we all need some sort of mind shifting. So that's why I do personal coaching. Now I do speaking engagements. I do presentations. I love doing workshops and presentation to high schools. It's like my favorite out of everything I do. And it's hard to shift the thinking of high school students, believe it or not, because they have big walls up. Um, for many reasons. Some of them I don't blame them for actually in today's society, but I'm able to typically anyway get past those walls and shift their thinking. And they've told me so. So that's a beautiful thing. But so when I do my one-on-one coaching, one of the reasons I got into one-on-one coaching isn't just because, okay, you can make money with one-on-one coaching. It's because one-on-one coaching is where I can be more specific to your needs. I do not do, I cannot stand all in one, all purpose messages. That's like bland, plain rice. What's that?
Right.
You eat white rice, but you eat it with a side of something flavorful, whether it's a sauce, whether it's veggies, whether it's meat, whatever, stewed chicken, whatever it is. I don't do all purpose messages. It's so important to individualize what you actually need and at your level. I don't do cookie cutter. I just don't believe in it. So for me as a mind shifter, that's what I do. I'm going to give you an example of what I did. I used to be a math teacher, and very briefly, I did more math tutoring than teaching, and I actually enjoyed the tutoring more than the teaching. But I used mind shifting methods when I tutored math. So here's what I would do. As a person who thinks mathematically, I think mathematically. So the way algebra works is exactly the way I think. I break things down. I see them in all their different phases, but understand their summary. And I see people that way. So math to me was easy because it's very logical according to how I was already built to think. But if you're not a mathematical thinker, math is really hard. And I get that. So unlike most mathematicians, I don't just say formula this and formula that and this. Those are all just empty words to them. Get them to understand the concepts first. Then let's talk about the formulas. Then let's give it labels and titles. So I would do that. So what I would do is within the first session, I would find out, how does this person think? So I would use analogies, whatever they could relate to. I use analogies for sports, for race, for sex, for vacuum cleaners, cars. Those are just some of the things I've done to get them to understand the mathematical concept. And then they're just like, oh, well, that wasn't so hard. It's like, no, once it's explained to you the right way, it's really, you can get this, and get them to really understand that they can get it. And then once I understood that, I would help them to, then we would take the principle and we would apply the titles to that formula. We'd apply, okay, this is the principle. How do we work that principle within this equation, within this whatever it is we're working on? And a lot of what I did was algebra, so that was kind of easy for me. Pre-calc is where I was like, you're boring. That's why I was just like, nah, I don't want to think anymore.
Well, I wish I'd had you around when I was in algebra.
I was just using that as an example of, how mind shifting works.
Right. Is
So
mind shifting something you developed?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's something that came natural to me. So it's not like I went to school, went to the masters of the mind shifters school. Many of us, I'm not the only person out there that shifts people thinking, but there's not a lot that focus on it the way I do. And I call myself the mind shifter because that's literally what I do. I am known for making statements to people, quick, 2 sentences, and blowing your mind. And just shifting your perspective. That's really is shifting your perspective to get you to see something so that you can do whatever it is you need to do. One of the biggest ways I absolutely love to do this, Amy, is with people who don't see their own self-value, who don't see their own value, who do not realize how valuable they actually are. People with low self-esteem. That's what we used to call it, but now we call it self-worth. And there's like 25 other whatever words you want, buzzwords you want to call for it, that boil down to the same thing. But self-worth is what it is, but there's many different titles you can give it. I absolutely love to take, and I especially do this with young women, because I was a young woman, I can relate, and get them to see that they have value, because there's so many, especially teenagers. And when I go into these high schools, I see it all over them, and I'll address it in the middle of the classroom too. So many of them think they're stupid. Simply put, as much as we say, you have worth, yay, everybody's worth something, blah, 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 none of that matters if we don't believe you. If you say the same thing to everybody, I don't believe you either. Right. I mean, let's be real. Everybody is, when you start making statements like that, nobody's listening. Nobody's taking you seriously. I wouldn't say nobody. Most of us are not taking you seriously. When you make blanket statements like that, just sound like you're an airhead. And I'm just going to be blunt. You just sound like an airhead. And I say, and I know that everybody who's saying stuff like that is not an airhead. And I'm not saying that everybody is, or that they're not well intended. What I'm talking about is how it's received.
Right.
And so you have these people that, unless you individualize their value to them, they don't get it. It doesn't apply to them. So why are you saying it to me?
Right. Well, and here it's such a pivotal point with these teenagers, because they're embarking on a new life soon, and they're finding out who they are. And so you're getting them at a really good time. What interests you about teens? Like, how did you get into working with teens?
I've always worked with children of different ages throughout my entire life. Even when I was a children, I worked with children. I did. Even when I was 10 years old, I was working at my Aunt Lizzie's daycare. Well, not technically working because I was 10, and 12, or no, yeah, I think it was 10 at that time. But I was helping out at the daycare with the kids because first of all, if you're Aunt Lizzie's and you're around her, you working. So it doesn't matter if you're the Queen of England, you working too. That's how she was. But she was so respected that she could do that. But even then, I used to help the little kids, like the 2-year-olds, learn how to learn their ABCs. The 2 to 5-year-olds learn their ABCs, learn how to count to 10 in English and Spanish. We did have 2-year-olds at the daycare that could count to 10 in English and Spanish. For real.
Wow.
Most of the kids that came out of her daycare were over prepared for kindergarten by the time they got there because we
Great.
taught them from babies. And I realized that. And then I used to teach Sunday school at my old church. And that's something I still value highly to this day. It was a wonderful experience. And I taught different age groups when I was there, but not teens. And then fast forward to many years later, I ended up being a dorm supervisor at a Job Corps. And Job Corps students are between the ages of 16 to 24. So I had a dorm full of about 75 females at first. And then I switched over to 100 males, teenage boys, being the head chick in charge. And there was only one female on my staff. Everything else was testosterone.
Oh, how
But
funny.
you got to be tough to handle that. But I can tell you, teenage boys are far more respectful than girls. They really are.
That is true.
Well, as females are just more emotional, but I mean, that's what it boils down to, really. But with the working with the teenagers there, it really opened up my eyes of what I was capable of in dealing with them, because I always had a natural talent, for dealing with them. But they really kind of helped me to understand more. I would say they really helped me to understand how to work with them more. There's so much I learned
Right.
from working with them.
Well,
There's
you're
a lot of
honest. You're obviously a very honest and open person, and I think the teens respect that.
That is the number one reason why I can reach them. I don't think I can reach them because I have special powers or because I'm better than anyone else. I'm just honest and real with them, and I don't treat them like they're 5 years old.
Right.
I don't talk at them. I talk with them. I get their input. I look for what they think. I ask their opinions all the time, and I mean it. And I'm just really raw. I'm really raw. And I know not everybody can handle that, because some people can only handle cotton candy because that's all they've ever dealt with. But you can't, if you want to deal with real issues, you got to be real and honest about them. And that's not always pretty and not always comfortable. I'm just willing to have the uncomfortable conversations. And I have a podcast as well. And so part of that is my podcast is for teens and the adults who work with them. So on my podcast, I am really raw. And let me also include in that statement, I'm raw, but not obnoxious. There is a difference. And yes, I do understand the difference. And I say that because a lot of times people are like, I keep it 100. I'm real. And so you're just real rude and obnoxious and ghetto and country as hell, whatever title you want to give it. It's like, no, I'm not that. I'm just real. I have those conversations. I have a podcast for teens. It's called Mind Shift Power Podcast. And it's a podcast for teens and the adults who work with them. So on my podcast, I'm very, very raw, open, and honest. Every guest I have on there is open and honest as well. If I feel people can't be real, I just don't have them on my show. I don't care how famous they are or how much of an expert they are. If you can't be honest and real and have raw conversations, then leave me alone. So, not necessarily leave me alone, but just I'm not interested because my podcast is there to help people. So we talk about issues that are relevant to the teen years or to the adults who work with teens. So, and that is everything from careers to child molestation and rape. You couldn't have a more varied topic than that, but I'm unafraid to talk about the things that we need to deal with, because something else I've learned in life, and I'm talking to you audience right now, everything you are trying to avoid is the very thing you need to be talking about so you can deal with it and get over it instead of staying under it.
Wow, good advice. Tell me, for your podcast, do you ever talk about mental health and that kind of thing?
Oh, absolutely. I talk about it from different perspectives intentionally. So I will talk about domestic violence and human trafficking is something that has come up, is coming up, and I will continue to talk about because those are things that are near and dear to my heart. I'm very passionate about, but I will not I have the same conversation with every guest. I'll have many guests on, and the conversations will be very different with different focuses. So when it comes to mental health, I think mental health is a big deal. And mental health, I want to make sure I clarify this to the audience. When I say mental health, I literally mean your mental well being. Because mental health doesn't just mean crazy folks, because that's what some people
Right.
think. They think, oh, well, mental health, okay, so you're just talking about people who are schizophrenic or bipolar or personality disorder, blah, 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 blah. No, it means your mental well being. Those
Right.
disorders are a part of the conversation too, but they're not the entire conversation. Your mental well being means that you're dealing with the stuff that you haven't been ignoring for years. I had an episode on, I think it came out a couple weeks ago. It was recent. It was called, the title of the episode is My Children Were Molested Right Under My Nose. Like this. Even my sister, when she went said, she went, whoa. I was like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I went there. This woman who is, I think she's 71. She said her age on the show, but she this happened to her children. And it did happen right under her nose. We talked about it. You know why I thought it was important to talk about? I think it's important to talk about being, sexual molestation and sexual abuse, physical abuse. I think it's important to talk about all of those things. But sexual abuse is a different category. It's not, it just, it has more elements to it than physical and mental. It's, it encompasses more. It's a bit, it has some nuanced needs. And I understand that. It's important to talk about the things that make us uncomfortable. And that's a topic that nobody wants to talk about because we do talk about people that were sexually abused. And I'm glad that we do. And I don't think we should stop.
No.
However, the conversations I don't hear happening, what about the parents of the molested children? They go through a lot too.
Oh, yeah.
And some parents freaking deserve it because it was their fault. I'm going to be real and honest. But some don't. And some just were genuinely ignorant. And nobody can beat them up more than they do. And I don't know that people understand that. And I think it's important that they talk to each other and maybe hear someone else like them. They're not going to go to a group session, but they might listen to my podcast. So I can help them in that way.
Well, I think
So
that's great because not only are they healing themselves, but hopefully other parents are listening and hearing signs maybe they could look for or things that they could watch for.
yeah, I think that's so important. We talked about that. But when it comes to mental health, I think it's an extremely important subject. That's why I wanted to come on here. I don't guest with everyone, I'll be honest with you. And I don't have everybody guest on my show either. I'm very particular. One thing I like about your show, and I said this to you in a chat, but you're willing with your show, you talk about the stuff that other people try to skirt around. And I love that about you. I respect it because
Thank you.
we need to have these conversations. I think it's so important. There needs to be more podcasts like yours and less of the fluffy crap. Sorry, fluffy crap people. But there needs to be more. I mean, the fluffy crap has a place too. Because if you're
Right.
dealing with heavy stuff all day, you need to listen to fluffy crap to kind of balance yourself out. And I understand that. But we need more people like you that are willing to go there and talk about the stuff that most people aren't. Now, most people wouldn't dare have an episode like I did and title it just that. But, you know, the conversation was gentle and just real and raw, you know?
Right.
And I came up with that episode after having a conversation with her because we actually talked about it at length. And I was like, would you be willing to do an episode about it? And she's like, yeah. And even the woman is 70 something years old. This happened 30 years ago. She still got choked up during the episode.
I would too. Yeah.
Yes, because it's still there. My point is, with mental health, the issues you're not dealing with, and I'm not talking to Amy, I'm talking to you. The issue you are not dealing with is already dealing with you. You already having messed up relationships. You are already instilling crap into your kids that was instilled into you, and you know it's crap. You are already messing up at work because of the patterns that you have. And those patterns developed because of the crap you're not dealing with.
Oh, you gave me
So
chills.
it's just the truth. Our mental health is not just about, I want people to stop thinking of mental health as crazy folks with disorders. No, mental health, just like physical health, it means health,
Right.
means all aspects of it.
That's
So
why
I'm
I'm
fine. I ain't got no problems. Yeah, that happened to, I got molested when I was 10 and I never talked about it, but I'm fine. No, you're not. Unless you're dealing with it, it's already dealing with you. I promise you.
yeah, you're right
100%.
on. Yeah, I respect that. And I've listened to your podcast and I was blown away by the change in one of the young ladies that I heard about.
Yes,
Yeah, you want to talk about that a little bit?
sure. If you guys are listening, Mind Shift Power Podcast, episode number 2 is what I'm specifically talking about. There's a young girl. Her name is Janaya. And because we say her name in the episode, a local young girl. And when she first met me at a community center, I was volunteering, doing some mind shifting. I was actually doing a girls group just for girls, stressed out girls to come in and talk. Well, that's how I met her. And it just kind of blossomed from there. But when I first met her, she had no self-value. She did not know that she was smart. She's beautiful. She's very intelligent. She's actually more mature than a lot of people my age. I'm not joking. Like, you can hear it. She's also episode 5, getting out of a toxic relationship at 17. Coming from a
Yeah.
17-year-old, it was a pretty powerful episode. But you can hear her maturity in episode 5 as well. So this girl had no clue who she was, what she was going to do with her life. She wasn't even thinking about college. She wasn't even sure she was going to finish high school. Like, she was in a really bad toxic relationship with a guy who was he wasn't physically abusive, but he was mentally, verbally abusive. And I basically coached her into, I mind shifted her into seeing herself. I gave her some specific methods, but I was able to customize them to her. And one thing I didn't do was, girl, you need to get rid of that Negro. I didn't tell her, get rid of your boyfriend right away. But it happened.
Yeah.
It happened, but not because I forced it down her throat. I
No, when
got
you
her.
love yourself, it's hard to put up with crap.
It is, but if you don't love yourself because you don't realize you're worth loving and that you're not dumb and that you're smart, if you don't understand all of that, you put up with more than you should. And for her, I was able to get her to see herself. So fast forward to the future, by the time we recorded the episode, she now was not only going to finish high school, but she knew exactly what she wanted to do with her life and what she was put on this earth to do. And she needs to go to college to do it. She's going to be a family lawyer,
Oh, wow.
a family attorney.
Yeah,
So
I heard her saying she likes to argue. So that'll be perfect.
yes, but here's the thing. I'm really good with analogies, but sometimes she blows my mind with some of her analogies. Like, for real.
Wow.
They're really, really good. And I'll be explaining something to her and she goes, you know what that makes me think of? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wow, can I steal that? Because I'm going to steal it. Don't worry, I'll give you credit, but that's a good one. But my point is that I use my mind shifting methods to get this young girl to see herself. Because as a coach, it's our job is to get you to the finish line and get you to win. That's what coaches do. Coaches do it in sports. They get you to do it physically. I get you to do it mentally so that you can do it business wise, personally, whatever other branch you want to go off into. But I start with the core. I start with the root. And then we can branch off into these other areas because you have to deal with, because, as the saying goes, everywhere you go, there you are.
Yeah.
I love that saying. I don't remember where it originated, but when I heard it, I was like, that's awesome. I love it. Everywhere, everything that we do, we're in it. So if you are messed up in the head, messed up in your thinking, messed up somehow, messed up in your emotions, whatever it is, all that messed upness, I like to make up words, all that messedness it branches out and it affects your job. It affects your career. It affects what you do and don't try. It affects your relationships. It affects how you raise your children. It affects your family relationships as well. All your relationships, friendship, romantic, family, all of them, because it's who you are. And if you're a person, for example, who walks in fear all the time, that fear will play itself out because you'll never go for the chances that you need to go for that are going to take you over the top. You will never try XYZ. There's just, you'll cut yourself off from good relationships because you're afraid of getting hurt. That fear will just like completely take over. So let's deal with that fear, because if we deal with that fear, all these other areas can begin to grow. Now, that's just an example.
Wow. Well, I really love listening to you, and I enjoyed your podcast, the episode I listened to that you were talking about.
Mhm.
She really, by the end of it, like when she was talking, she really likes herself now, and I loved seeing that and
So
hearing
did I.
that. Yeah, that's beautiful.
I was sharing this with her just the other day because I didn't tell her this part before. I said, you know why I was able to understand you and why I was so determined the moment I met you to get you to at least to the best of my ability to realize who you are and what you have and the gifting that you have and the intelligence you have, etc. Because I was you. I understand. I know what it's like to feel like I'm dumb. I'm just fat, ugly, stupid. I'm crap. I used to believe that about myself. And I now really, people look at me like, what? Because I always came across as confident because I'm very strong. I have a very strong personality. God created me that way. That doesn't mean that I believed in myself. And I didn't. I really, really didn't. Took me a very long time. I'm a very confident person now. People see me as strong and confident, and I am. But it took a long time to build that. I
How
wasn't just
did you build
born.
that?
I'll be real, raw, and honest. My relationship with God.
Okay.
Understanding not just who I am, but whose I am and who made me and why he made me and how he made me and how every way he made me is a gift and how he intelligently designed me and all of my personality traits, not the ones I developed with an attitude. I mean, innate personality trait. Not all my choices, but innate personality traits that he put them there. I was born to be the mind shifter. And I always have. People have always been drawn to me to tell me stuff that sometimes I want to know, but they feel comfortable telling me like all their business or the deep stuff that they don't tell anybody.
Right.
And there's a reason for that because God designed me that way. And I'm always like,
Yeah.
I'm just a natural counselor. And the thing is, I'm not a therapist. And I don't want to be a therapist, actually, but I do therapize. Yes. As I like to say, it goes with the territory, honestly, in dealing with people, because if you are going to talk to me about an issue, I don't compartmentalize and say, well, we can only talk about XYZ. Now, if we only have 30 minutes, then I might do that, but I'll say, let's talk about this later. But I don't compartmentalize as far as I want you to be a whole person. I want you to be a whole functioning person and do well in your career and go for it. But I know
Yeah.
that this is holding you back, so I'm going to address it. So if you're not willing to address stuff, don't come to me because we ain't going to work.
Yeah.
We're not going to
Very
work.
powerful. I love your energy, and it really is your confidence shines through, which makes you very attractive and you want to talk to you. I can see how people want to do that.
I hope so because I see it as a tool that I can use to draw you in and help you.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, nothing invigorates me more than really just helping people. But it's not just helping you, giving you food or giving you some kind of training. I want to help you live, not
Yeah.
just exist, not survive, but live and then thrive. Because you don't go from surviving to thriving. You got to live first and then you can thrive. You got to, go in progression. Progress is a process, So I love being able to do that for people. So when I have audience with people, if I have a chance to change your mind, I will.
That's
And I don't care
great.
what your title is. I don't care if you're rich and famous or a bum on the street. You are not different to me when it comes to that.
Right.
So, that's my mindset and mentality is if I come in contact with you and I find a way to help you, I will. I do read people really well. And sometimes it's not always appropriate to address what I see. And so sometimes I do have to kind of turn it off. Well, you can't turn it off, but I just turn the volume down where sometimes I might pull a person aside and say, look, I know this might seem strange and weird and you don't know me, but XYZ, blah, blah, blah. And I just get a gut feeling of whether or not I can approach that person with whatever it is. And sometimes I'll take the chance. And if I think I can, I will take the chance because you
Yeah.
never know. Because sometimes people can look like I'm tough. What you talking about? But you don't know what's going on inside them. And if you touch them in the right spot, they'll open right up and be like, well, actually, I've been going through this, da 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 da. And I'm not everybody's counselor, but if I can help, I will.
Yeah.
I care
You
about
gotta
people and I care
give.
about people's well-being. So I try to do whatever I can from where I am. And that's something audience, all of you can do. You could do something from where you are. You might not have the gifts that I have. You probably have some gifts I don't have. But wherever you are in life, you can help the people around you. The worst society in the world in human existence is one where everybody only cares about themselves.
Amen. So,
So
oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Go
Go ahead.
So tell me, where can people find you if they're interested in coaching with you? And do you only coach teens?
No. So teens is a focus for my podcast and going to high schools. I do work with adults. Here's a segue. Here's a sidebar I meant to add earlier, so I'm glad you asked that because I forgot to say this. Yes, my podcast is for teens, and I work with teens a lot. I also work with the grown teens. Oh, we call them adults because a lot of us are still teens on the inside. So a lot of what I talk about with teens and explain to teens still applies to us. I'll phrase it. The only difference most of the time is the way I'll phrase it when I'm talking to teens and the examples that I use. If I'm talking to a room full of women that are 50 plus, my examples will be different than if I'm talking to a teenager. The principles will be exactly the same.
That's
And my
interesting.
wording will be different.
That's interesting. You said that the stories still apply because when I listened to your podcast, at first I was like, well, this is for teens. I don't know if I'm going to really get into this. And then I was like, this is really good. And this totally applies to me too. I could do that. Like you were talking about spreading the lotion on and saying, I'm beautiful and I'm worthy and those kind of things. And I thought, I could be teaching my daughter that. I could be doing that. So I appreciate the work that you're doing.
That is one of my mind shifting methods, actually. That's just one.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. And if y'all don't know what we're talking about, go listen to episode 2 and you will. So that method with the lotion, I use that on her and I've used it on others, but I don't use the same method with every person. I use the same principle with everybody.
Right.
But the methods I will change from person to person depending on what's going to work for them.
How did you
So
come up with your methods?
I just came up with them.
That's just
So
incredible.
it's the same principles that you learn when you're going through life coaching training, or even when you get your degree for therapy. Some of the stuff that they teach you is stuff that I'm already doing. I just understand that application matters.
Yes.
So I apply them in different ways with different people. So what I might say to you as an individual would be different than what I'll say to a whole crowd. Because with a whole crowd, I'm dealing with multiple kinds of people. But for you individually, I might bring out something that has to do with dogs because you like dogs or whatever it is. But I think it's important to apply things correctly. So with that being said, back to your question. I do coach adults a lot as well. My podcast is for teens because those are the people I'm trying to reach with that particular platform because I saw a problem that I could solve. But with adults, I still take the same principles and apply them. So with adults, what I do is help people to find their purpose because one of the reasons we make most of the mistakes we make in life is because we don't know why we're here in the first place. We don't understand our gifts and this is not just true for Americans. It doesn't matter what society you grew up in. We all have cultural norms and things that we're taught. And sometimes we're taught that you can only be this, or we're all taught to fit in some kind of box, usually. And I teach people to crawl out of that box and think differently.
Thank God you do.
So you can find me on fatimabey.com. It's FATIMABEY.com. There's a podcast page there. All of my coaching services that I offer are there. So I do want to tell your audience what my focuses are, because I coach people, but I know I'm not a general all-purpose person. I have very particular focuses, because those are the things that I'm just really good at and I have a bigger passion about. So number one is to find your purpose. Number two is to take that purpose. Once you know what your purpose is, you take that purpose and you turn it into a business or a career. I'm a firm believer that nobody should be working to pay bills. What the hell are you on this earth for? No, bad. So you should be making money off of that gift and talent, so that, as many wise business people have said, you won't work a day in your life if you're living out your passion.
That's so
But
true.
that's how you do. But you need to find out what that is first. And so once you do that, you're going to turn it into a career or business. And then teens, as we know. But one of my biggest ones you're going to see me over the next couple of years talk about a lot is balance. Now, the thing about balance is it seems like a very simple topic and people talk about it, but I've never in my life heard of anybody talk about it as deeply as I do and have an understanding of. Everything in life that works has balance. Everything in life that's not working, something is out of balance. Simply put. It doesn't matter what example you give me, what's in balance or out of balance, it's in the details. So politics is a great example of that, because we have people who are just so extremely to the left, extremely to the right, and both of you are freaking nuts. The truth is in the middle.
Right.
The truth is in the middle. But anyway, I help people to find balance in their life. So
Good.
if you're in an area that's not working, but you do have some of the right answers, you just are out of balance. So let's figure out what that is. It's kind of like, well, she talks too much, tells everybody her business. Well, that's bad. And then so she went from that to never opening up to anybody ever. That's also bad.
Right.
They're both out of balance because they're both extremes. Balance is knowing how and when to let it out, but being wise enough to not let it all out.
Right.
It's
That's
a
such
tiny
great
little
advice.
tidbit.
Yes. Thank you so much, Fatima. I really enjoyed talking with you today.
I enjoyed talking with you too.
Yeah, thank you. I will go ahead and put all your information in the show notes so that people can find you and seek you out if they want to. And is there anything you want to leave our listeners with today?
I think I already left you a few nuggets.
Yeah, you did.
That's the thing I do.
Specifically talking about you had a free coaching session.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Shame on me, because I was supposed to remember that. I get so excited that I kind of forget. So I do offer a free 30-minute consultation for anybody who wants to make sure that we're a match. I do not want you to become my client if I'm not good for you. And I'm not going to be a match for everybody, and that's okay. But if you think that I might be able to help you, then absolutely, let's have a chat and find out. And I'm really honest. So if I think I can't help you, I will send you where I think you can be helped. I'm like that.
Well, I think that's how all therapists should be. I think, and I know you're not a therapist, but I'm saying anybody in this field
Yeah.
think that they should all give that 30-minute kind of get to know you thing and see if you're a good fit.
Absolutely. I don't
good.
want somebody to sign up for me that I know I can't help. The only people I can't help, honestly, are those who are unwilling.
Yeah.
Somebody who just wants a coach because they want them to powder their booty. That's not me. Go sit on the street. To powder your booty, coaches are us. That's not me. It's not me. I want to get actual results and not just make you feel comfortable and pet you.
Right.
I'm not good. I want you to be comfortable, obviously, but I want you to be uncomfortable enough in the parts that need to change.
Well, thank you very much. I want to thank you again for coming on the show. And everybody, this was Advancing with Amy with Fatima Bey, and I'll put all her information in the show notes for you. And that wraps up another enlightening episode of Advancing with Amy, mental health warrior and neurospicy mama. I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to our incredible guest, Fatima Bey, for sharing her profound insights on mental health, overcoming fear, and the importance of self-worth. Fatima, your passion for helping individuals, whether teens or adults, is truly inspiring. Your work in mind shifting, your dedication to honest and raw conversations, and your commitment to aiding others in finding balance in their lives are commendable. Listeners, if you found today's discussion as impactful as I did, I encourage you to take advantage of Fatima's generous offer of a free 30-minute consultation session. It's an excellent opportunity to see if her coaching methods align with your personal growth journey. You can find the link to schedule your session in our episode description. Additionally, if you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to rate, review, and share it with your friends and family. Your feedback helps us continue to bring you valuable content and remarkable guests like Fatima. Let's spread the message of mental wellness and support as many people as we can. Thank you for tuning in to Advancing with Amy, Mental Health Warrior and Neurospicy Mama. Until next time, keep advancing, warriors.